welcome to judge for yourself. You'll notice immediately that we've changed the nature of this particular program, and I want to tell you why. It seems to me that we're living, in the world, in general, South Africa in particular, in very, very parlous times. Constitutional democracy cannot be taken for granted. People like Donald Trump are assailing it, and you never know what might happen in South Africa. And we are determined to make our small contribution in this program to providing you with the information and the context in which you can make up your own minds as to the crucial issues, so that we can all hold public and private power as it affects the public accountable, to be transparent, to show integrity. That's absolutely crucial. You know, some little while back, I was watching a program which dealt with the very famous New York journalist, Ed Murrow. And one of the things he was talking about in the context of the McCarthy era, when really American democracy, as it is now, was in real peril, he quoted Shakespeare's Cassius, speaking to Brutus, "The fault, dear Brutus, lies not in the stars, but in ourselves." We are the ones who will be responsible for where this country prospers into the kind of society that all of us want. But in order to do that, it's about time that we stop trivializing the news and, in a sense, not dealing seriously with the fundamental questions which bedevil our nation. And that, dear viewer, is precisely what we intend to do now, to hold people accountable so that, in fact, they do their jobs in order to serve we, the public. Our program tonight is the Department of Art, Sports and Culture. And obviously, the person responsible for that, the Minister, Gayton McKenzie. Let's be clear from the outset. Our gripe isn't with Mr. McKenzie as a person. There's a huge amount to commend about Mr. McKenzie. A young man who's on the wrong side of the law, who then built significant businesses and a particularly important political party. That's something to be proud of. Our problem is with Mr. McKenzie's running of his department and whether, in fact, he's fulfilling the objectives of the department. But first, let us have a look at Mr. McKenzie's record.
From convicted criminal to cabinet minister, from prison to parliament, Gayton McKenzie admits that he became a gangster when he was just 12 years old and that he grew up during his time in prison after he was sentenced for armed robbery when he was 21.
The last time a judge asked me to sit, he made me sit for 10 years.
His early release was secured when he and 3 other inmates secretly filmed large-scale corruption in prisons, including a juvenile being sold for sex and warders smuggling in a loaded gun, drugs, alcohol and food. That footage led to the Jali Commission of Inquiry into Prisons in 2001. McKenzie has called the commission his catalyst for change, and after his release, he launched a new career as an author, motivational speaker, and businessman.
What I'm doing, I started a company called X Concepts, which is a company that helps ex-offenders. And yeah, that's my social responsibility company. And I'm also heavily involved in mining.
Patriots!
In 2013, he launched the Patriotic Alliance with his friend, self-confessed sushi king Kenny Kunene, who is now running for Joburg mayor after a brief hiatus from politics because of his visit to murder suspect Katie Molefe's home during a police raid. McKenzie, meanwhile, has been the mayor of the Central Karoo and after the 2024 elections hustled his way into Parliament as the minister in charge of sport, arts and culture. And he has big plans for the portfolio.
We are putting in a bid for the 2036 Olympics. I come from UFC. I met with the president, Dana White, to bring it here. I have met with Live Golf for them to come here. Formula One, I'm seeing them next week to bring it here. I've met with the president of volleyball to bring it here. We are going to Monaco to go and discuss, to bring the athletics, the diamond, to bring it here.
It's like he pushed it back on. Wu Sang Hok
It will be dumb for us not to host that. It will be very dumb. Because now, I mean, it's like if you know this thing costs 100 rands and you want it, and you know it will better your country, and the same thing costs 20 rands now. I mean, like 80 rands gone. Of course you must go for it. And I think what we do as South Africa, we've held the World Cup. We had the best soccer World Cup. Nothing is bigger than the soccer World Cup in the whole world. And we had the best one of all the nations. If you doubt me, ask yourself one question. Give me the song that was sang at Brazil World Cup. You can't. Bring me the song of Argentina. You can't. But South Africa, waka waka eh.
So what is evident from this clip is that Mr. McKenzie is particularly keen on Formula One and, in fact, on the Olympics and events such as that. Now, I have nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic. But the reality is that what's he doing at the other end? Withholding funding for crucial cultural events. And that's what his job should be, to actually promote indigenous culture, music, and arts. And I will give you 3 case studies that show exactly what he's been doing. The first example is the Open Book Festival in Cape Town. It's a diverse, inclusive, vibrant event. All sorts of writers come and talk. People from all over the demography of the Western Cape and beyond come to that particular festival. It's been running for 11 years. In fact, dear viewer, if you're in Cape Town, you should come to that festival. It really is about what the new South Africa is, and accordingly, the Western Cape government designated it as a flagship event, which allowed it to access funding from the National Department of Sports, Art and Culture. Mervyn Sloman from the Book Lounge is one of the festival's directors. He was told in January last year that flagship projects were being scrapped. If the festival wanted money, they jolly will have to apply for something called the Mzansi Golden Economy Funding, which apparently has about 100 million rand in it. They applied, and they heard absolutely nothing. They then had to rely on crowdfunding to get the festival off the ground, which basically showed how popular it was. And when a list was finally published for those who would be able to access funding from the department, the festival and many others were not included. Absolutely disgraceful.
A few months later, this is long after the festivals happened, we got a letter which was...
What does that say?
And it says that our proposal... I'm just going to read this. So this is our proposal for Mzansi Golden Economy Funding. The proposal was found to be significantly out of alignment with the guidelines. Makes absolutely no sense. The proposed project lacks sufficient details outlining the project's viability. Now, this is a festival that's been going since 2011, okay? Furthermore, it was found that in the proposed project, and this is the one that really made me angry, artists/creatives benefit the least. Now, the entire festival is about artists/creatives, i.e. writers, thought leaders, people in the book world.
Able to engage with the public.
About them being able to engage with the public, about promoting their work, about giving them a platform, about introducing them to other writers, and about paying them to be part of Open Book.
Here's another example. In February last year, South Africa was invited to be a guest of honor at the 33rd Havana International Book Fair. It's one of Cuba's largest cultural events. A committee, which included the National Writers Association of South Africa, the South African Booksellers Association, and the national coordinator of the Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association of South Africa, drew up a comprehensive list of the poets and the writers they believed would best represent South Africa. These are people who know their business. These are people who know authors and artists are. Oh, but the final decision lay with the minister, who said he took one look at that list and decided that he wanted to see more inclusion. By the way, one of the ironies about that, he said he wanted to see more white and colored writers. Well, on his racial classification, one of the people that he excluded was the highly acclaimed and brilliant C.A. Davids, author of The Blacks of Cape Town and How to Be a Revolutionary. She happens on that classification to be colored, and she was no longer part of the delegation. How do you explain that?
At the last moment, to my knowledge, really, I think maybe a week or two before departure. So we'd been put on notice and had waited for 2 months to hear whether we'd be going. And just before they were due to leave, he took off almost all of the writers.
He being the minister.
Minister Gayton McKenzie.
Yes.
Took off almost all the writers that I think even his own department had proposed. and he replaced it with a list which was all his own. So essentially he had ignored the expertise of the literary industry, publishing houses, the Publishers Association of South Africa, other representative bodies, and he came up with a list that was of his own choosing.
So you might ask, who then went? Well, there were 15 so-called literary practitioners sent on this R2 million trip, including, according to Daily Maverick, 4 self-help writers, 3 evangelical pastors, and a musician who had published a memoir. One of them, Reverend Farron Clutie, a pastor by trade, is a well-known TikTok influencer. She is not known to have made any significant literary contribution at all. Just one of the expert committee's recommendations was approved. And R2 million did not, of course, include the costs of 3 additional departmental officials, including the Deputy Minister of Sport, Art and Culture. In his Facebook post, McKenzie said he made it clear that there should be white and coloured people. He said he would not be ashamed of his instruction. Cuba's request for certain writers was also ignored. I've already made my remark in relation to the question of white and coloured writers. The logic just defies any explanation.
What does he mean by inclusivity? You know, is this what he's spoken about before in terms of race? Or I don't really understand what that means. So it's really a statement which doesn't tell me very much. But the National Arts Festival is in fact a generative locus for festivals and productions and artists, emerging artists, as well as established artists around the country. And it has been for 50 years. You cannot grow an industry while you break something that's sitting at the center of it, just in terms of live performance art.
This brings us to our third case study that we've chosen. Last year was the 51st anniversary of the National Arts Festival, which was also a flagship project that used to get multi-year contracts that allowed them to plan in advance. Now let's just talk a little bit about this festival for a moment. It's the National Arts Festival, and certainly must be so that since democracy dawned in South Africa over the last 32 years, that festival has been a cauldron of real creativity from all walks of South African life. All sorts of artists and actors and the like come to that festival to show off their talents. And it promotes the arts in a really fundamental way. It is a central festival. All of a sudden, the funding has now dried up from the department.
Which was quite ironic, as being a National Arts Festival. But we later learned that whilst we were trying to engage with the department, trying to get the attention of the minister for over a year, it was not just us. Many other festivals were struggling to get support. And there was no clear strategic objective or explanation that was given.
Now, most recently, Mr. McKenzie pulled the plug on South Africa's biennial submission because he took exception to Gabrielle Goliath's work, Elegy. Her piece focuses on the crimes against humanity in Gaza. Now, let me make it absolutely clear. Mr. McKenzie can have whatever view he likes in relation to Gaza and Israel. That's his business. But he is a minister in a government which has taken a particular view in this particular regard. And it does seem to me to be particularly incongruent that he can actually suddenly decide that because that's the focus of her art, suddenly she should not be funded. I should add that there's ongoing litigation in regard to that decision.
As a minister of sport, arts and culture, I serve under President Ramaphosa. My party has a view. The DA has a view. You have the Freedom Front Plus, for instance. They believe that there should be secession in the Western Cape. Government doesn't believe that. I don't believe that. But what brought us together, it is the thing. If you are looking for, well, I turn my back on Israel, you are looking at the wrong thing. I will never turn my back on Israel.
So you remain true in your support of the Zionist genocide guilty perpetrators?
I am a Christian. You are a Muslim. I cannot tell you how to be a Muslim. You can't tell me how to be a Christian.
Well, there are many Christians who disagree with Zionism.
Go speak to them. You're now speaking to this Christian.
Apart from the 3 case studies we've shown, there have been many other controversies since Mr. McKenzie was sworn in as the minister some 2 years ago. And there are some very questionable decisions that require probing. In July 2024, he's just become the minister. And the public protector has already been launching a probe into the 800,000 rand in travel expenses for Mr. McKenzie's trip to the Paris Olympics. He was apparently quoted as saying that business class travel was necessary to avoid illness on long flights. Fair enough, but it still required an investigation. One wants to ask why.
I'm flying first class all the time. It was my own money. And now I'm flying business class. If I have to account which I'm doing, we expect every minister to also account.
In May of 2025, he ordered the removal of all foreign nationals from departmental entities within his portfolio.
Some of you sitting here has the audacity to hire foreigners instead of South Africans. I don't care how you used to do it, but for as long as I am the minister, there will be no foreigner that will work in an entity while a South African can do the same thing. I want you to know this year, I'm busy with it. Some of you that want to defend that will be fired.
And then in September, he was accused of punishing Western Cape arts by cutting promised cultural grants. As I've indicated already in relation to January this year, he's been accused of censorship for the Venice Biennale decision. And in February this year, he suddenly turned his attention to town names, signing off on 21 name changes across the Eastern Cape. Now, I'm not debating the merits of those decisions, but he had made promises not to do just that. Nonetheless, off he went.
I'm being told by the white people this side, yeah, you're not right. The black people this side say, why are you taking so long to change the names? And now, even colored people in my own party. So what must I do? I must just do what the Constitution say to me, that when people make an application for name change, if they have changed all the things, if they have ticked all the boxes, on what basis will I say no? On what basis, tell me?
We could not and we would not do the show without offering Minister Gayton McKenzie a right of reply. We think there's a serious case for him to answer. We think the public are entitled to answers. We've been trying to get him on the show for over a year. He's not been available. Neither of any of the officials from his department, which, by the way, often happens if the minister's not available, somebody comes on to provide the public with information. Not in this case. All we got was a statement from his spokesperson regarding our questions about cuts in funding for festivals. And quite frankly, you can judge for yourself in relation to the quality of this response, which I shall read to you now. Some festivals have historically not been accustomed to participating in the same access process as the broader public. The department is in the process of broadening access to ensure that wider communities also have meaningful opportunities to benefit. As part of this review, considerations are being given to funding patterns, provide greater equity and inclusiveness across the sector. These matters remain under active engagement. No final determination has been made at this stage. Accordingly, it'd be premature to characterize or debate outcomes. They're still under consideration. Oh, so now we're told that actually the ordinary public, those of us who really worry about indigenous art, should be consulted. Very different to the bragging about the F1 and the Olympics, isn't it? But that's all we got. That's all we got as a reply to persistent questions about Mr. McKenzie or somebody else coming and answering the case that we brought against him.
I would ask anybody from Departments of Sport, Arts and Culture who wants to have that kind of conversation with us to come and have a look at the demographics of Open Book Festival. And I'm not just talking about race, I'm talking about all sorts of markers, and very, very importantly, I'm talking about age. It's absolutely crucial that we get young people engaged with books and with the arts more broadly. That's why we offer free tickets to students. That's why we offer free tickets to activists. That's why we offer free tickets to anybody who cannot afford to pay the 50 Rand to come to an event at the festival.
I have the impression that sometimes we get saddled with a minister who not only doesn't understand the arts and cultural sector, but sometimes they are placed there simply so that they won't do any harm to the rest of the South African government. It's not been taken seriously, and instead of growing the sector, he's harming the sector.
The department has to increase the scope and accommodate more cultural events. However, in doing so, you should not kill the existing initiatives. In other words, you have festivals that have been around over 20, 30, and in the case of the National Arts Festival, we've been around for over 50 years. And you take 2 years to decide to try and come up with a plan. And in the process, you're eroding the cultural institutions that have been in existence for so many years.
As I indicated at the beginning, this program is devoted to holding public and private power, where it affects the public, accountable. And that's what we're trying to do with this department. And the fact of the matter is that there's a serious case here in which indigenous artists, musicians, the creative community of South Africa are being fundamentally jeopardized because of this particular department and because of the most eccentric kind of decisions, to put it mildly. And Mr. McKenzie clearly doesn't care, because he's not prepared to be held accountable. He's not prepared to answer the questions we put him. And again, I offer him the invitation. If he thinks that we've said anything which is inaccurate, which requires clarification because we've got it wrong, the floor is his. He can come here and I shall talk to him about those. But until he does, until he basically says, I couldn't care a damn about the artists and others of whom it's his mandate, well, there's only one conclusion that we can come to, that the evidence is so damning that there's only one inference, and that is that the department needs fundamental change to promote its core mandate. And if he doesn't come, well, you, the public, will in fact draw the inference, and you'll judge for yourselves. Good night.